Hello, everyone. My name is Edith Romero, and this is my literacy autobiography. A little bit about myself. I am 22 years old currently, and I am currently in my first semester student teaching. However, this is my literacy and my road to literacy and how I came to be the person I am today. Like many people, family plays an important role in my learning education. My mom and dad met in Oxnard, California, which is where I was born. Oxnard, for those of you who don't know, is in Ventura County, just east of LA. And so my parents came to the United States from their original country, Mexico. They came for a better life for me and my siblings. And one of the things that I think is important in my educational career is that my parents did not have those opportunities. And so my mom only made it to third grade because she had to care for her mother and six siblings. And my dad only went to sixth grade because that's all that they offered in his town. So education was very important to my parents. And so therefore it was instilled in us. And so we were always held at high expectations. So this is my family. From a trip that we took not too long ago. And my mom and my dad are here in the center. And I have to thank them for the biggest portion of my literacy journey. My first language is actually Spanish, and so I was considered an English language learner. And so my road to literacy was a little bit different than more monolanguage people. But nonetheless, this road has led me here today. So my parents had migrated from Mexico, and they were working in agriculture, and specifically in orchards like these or strawberry fields in Oxnard. And so me and my siblings were always exposed to agriculture from the very beginning. And I feel like that agriculture in my life has been a really huge impact in how I am today and now pursuing agriculture education. And so my parents would be working in the fields, and they would have many people around them. And so when me and my siblings would go and visit them or drop off lunch or something, I was really intrigued in the different fruits that they were picking and the methods that they had the fruits stored and packed. And so I would always constantly ask questions, and they would, of course, explain it to me in Spanish. And I would be able to identify that now in English, that I'm looking back at it, is that that's how I started my educational journey, is through learning hands-on and what people were doing. I was really interested in the way that the world worked, and more precisely in the way that agriculture was produced. And another part that I have right here in this slideshow is the bilingual TV shows. So as I mentioned, my original language is Spanish, and I learned English. And so my mom wanted us to be proficient in Spanish before we even got to kindergarten and first grade. And she always said that we were always going to be learning English for the rest of our lives. And so Spanish is something that was kind of pushed aside, and she didn't want that for us because she understood the importance of speaking two different languages. And so she would make us watch these bilingual TV kids shows like Dora, Handy Mandy, Maya, and Miguel, and just these different TV shows that most other kids wouldn't really watch. I know a lot of people watch Dora, but she would not let us watch anything else but bilingual shows. And so that way we were able to learn a lot of this Spanish. Although my parents didn't read and write Spanish, they spoke it. They wanted us to learn it. And so she would actually have my eldest cousin come over and teach us Spanish, words and writing and grammar. And so that's where I kind of think about it. And at the time I didn't. I just thought it was just extra stuff we had to do. And now that I think about it, is that me becoming proficient in Spanish has helped me learn the English language pretty quickly. And so once jumping into first grade and kinder, I was also taking these bilingual classes that my mom enrolled me in. Now they didn't offer them, I think, when I moved, which is a big thing that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But for her, Spanish was extremely important because she realized that, being in America, we're going to be around English all the time. So she wanted that important aspect of our life to be with us continually and to be developed further. So as I discussed that I am from originally Oxnard, California. One of the biggest things that impacted my life tremendously was a big family move. We moved from Oxnard all the way up to Sanger. And I have here Parlier highlighted because that is now my hometown, but it's about 10 miles away from Sanger. And so Sanger was where we moved in with my aunt and uncle and their 2 daughters. So it was all of us and them until my family kind of got settled and figured out where they wanted to live. But during that time that I was there, I feel like that big move impacted me a lot because in Oxnard, I had family all around me. And over here, when I moved, I only had this family, and my cousins were really speaking English and not so much Spanish. So it was a really big change for me. And I was able to, move into it slowly, but it was something different for me. And at the time, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to be able to communicate the world. How am I going to learn English? How am I going to do all this? But that also motivated me because I saw my cousins reading English at a higher level than they should be. And so that motivated me myself to kind of move forward with the language and start learning about it as well. And one of the things that I did while I was living there is my aunt would actually have reading circles with her 2 daughters. And because my mom's seen how important and how it was helping her daughters, so she made me and my siblings get into these reading circles that would happen every Friday. We would all take a book and start reading it. And then we would select a book that we would want to read as a whole group on Monday. So we would read these books over the weekend, and we'd still be in these reading circles every afternoon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And at that time, I hated it. I mean, I just didn't want to be reading this. But now, looking back at it and really analyzing and taking a step back and analyzing my life and the things that I've done, I mean, this portion right here, it made the big shift for me. It made me start moving towards learning English. Even though I was still learning Spanish and grasping the concepts of it, I was able to know and be able to realize 2 words that translate each other. And so I knew that a dog in Spanish was perro, and I was able to, kind of bringing those 2 together, and it really actually helped me out a lot. I mean, the English language is hard on its own for people that are learning it, but being able to master Spanish first and having those implementations that my parents put before us has helped and give us a kind of like a stepping stone for the English language. And this brings me to Goodman's Multiple Roads to Literacy article, in which she stated being read to by parents, grandparents, teachers, siblings, and other caregivers establish one kind of context in which children are engaged and immersed in becoming full-fledged members of a literate community. And I feel like this reading circle ties into that. Although my parents weren't reading to us and being engaged in that, we had that family figure, and also with my siblings and my cousins being a strong motivating factor and me wanting to learn and read and just be engaged in this reading circle. I feel like it helped me a lot develop myself, and also realizing now that it's actually a road to literacy that I didn't know. So that was really important to me. And I think that, having these kind of family times, it not only brings the family together, but I was able to make these kind of interconnections through the books that we read. I mean, there were kids' books like The Cat in the Hat, Things like Ferdinand, for example. Those are some of my favorite books that we read in that time. And in reading that, during that time, I just thought it was just a pastime. But now thinking back at it, it really definitely had a big impact on my road to literacy. Okay. When I was about getting into junior high, middle school, and my dad had always been working. To this day, he still works 12 hours a day. And so I rarely got to see my dad because he's such a hard worker. But when I did, he would spend his time watching National Geographic, watching the Discovery Channel. But these two are important shows that I want to highlight because although they're not as seen as kids or cartoon shows, these shows are really educational, and I was able to incorporate some of those concepts in these shows into real life. For example, Caesar 911, a dog training show, but his show is really on showing you the educational side of dog training, and I was actually able to kind of identify some of the concepts and bring it into my own home with my pets. And also, the incredible Dr. Pol also played a big role, not only with me and my dad, and we discussed it and seen some of the surgeries that he does and working with livestock. Ag was a big part of my life still at that time when we moved to Central California. But the incredible Dr. Pol actually really impacted my life greatly because he made me want to be more involved in the world, and he showed that being more hands-on, which is the way I learned. Although I can take readings and take grasping from them, but I'm more of a person that learns hands-on. And so I was able to take some of his concepts into day-to-day plays, in which I feel that Ferrer talks about a lot in his article about, being able to distinguish key things happening in life and relating that to literature. And so I saw these videos and his protocols as text. And those texts I was able to bring into my life as I show livestock and care for livestock as well. So this was another road that I never really thought about being a road, but now looking back at it now doing this video, it's actually opened my eyes into other ways that people also have their literacy roads. I can never imagine such things as a vet channel really playing a big role in people's lives, but it did for me. So another thing that helped me especially a lot in developing my literacy was, of course, the after school programs. I was in after school programs from elementary to junior high. And primarily was because my parents, like I said, were always working. So they needed all those siblings to be somewhere at one time being under supervision of adults. But the after school program in my school district was really unique in where they like to really engage students into real world things. And for example, they would have time where we sit down, do homework, discuss the homework, and share with the class some of our strong points when doing the homework or some of our weakest points when doing homework. And so that kind of got me into openness of speaking with other people and being more hands-on after school. For example, I remember to this day, we learned about the scientific methods, and then we took that and implemented that when we were building little robotic cars. Something silly as that, but being able to kind of take that and create something with it and relate that back to my life now. The after school program helped me tremendously in further developing my skills. I know I was in school and learning these different concepts and learning how to connect them with real world things, but the after school was that extra stepping stone to actually implementing those ideas. Okay. And in high school, I want to highlight two key programs that helped me so much in my literacy road. In literacy, for me, not only is it reading, writing, but also speaking and communicating. And so the National FFA organization, and back then it was known as the Future Farmers of America, But the National FFA has really changed my life tremendously. And I know that I mentioned that many things have helped my life, but I can truly say that this program on its own is one of the main things that helped me develop the person I am today. And so I was in many career development events, and I was also in speaking contests, and I was the chapter officer. And so I was constantly doing stuff, but most importantly, I was able to conquer my biggest fear, which was speaking. I dreaded speaking in front of even another person. I was the quiet one in the back of the room, didn't really make a sound, and just really observed for most of the part of my educational journey until I stepped into my freshman year agriculture science class and met my teacher, Mrs. Wagner. And so she helped, and she saw in me what I didn't see into myself, which is what a lot of ag teachers do for their students. And now that's why I am pursuing agriculture education. I want to do that for other students. But this program on its own helped me, learn to write more correctly, learn to speak more in front of people. It exposed me to new things that now in this life play an important role. Like I was in the job speaking contest, or job interview speaking contest. And so that is something that, you take with you, and that's something that will affect you in the real world. And so, you know, at that time, I thought it was just a program that really was enjoyable for me. I mean, it was agriculture. And like I said multiple times, agriculture has shaped me as a person, but this program has gone above and beyond that. And Goodman also speaks about how things or certain events can not only be on a road on its own, but also contribute and intertwine with other roads. And I feel like this program is one of those that intertwines with the other roads as well. And if the other program that I mentioned that I want to talk about is also the Navy JROTC. This program is a little bit different, in which is more military based, but this program gave me my first official opportunity in teaching. I was the drill commander for a rifle team similar to this one, and I had to teach many of my peers. And what made me realize is that everyone learns differently, and how Goodman also comes back and says that every road is different for people, for many different people. And some people can share some similar roads, but no road is similar. And so this really opened my mind into how people learn differently. And so I had to come up as being the captain of different ways to being able to teach these people the same thing, but having different varieties. So that's another program that really impacted my life. I was also in it for 4 years. And the last thing I want to say that helped me in my road to literacy is showing livestock. And so showing livestock has its own up and downs, but for most of the part, bringing back from my junior year, a junior high, the Dr. Pohl and his veterinary practices and his diagnosis and his behavior understanding, I took that and implemented that here. And so and now thinking about that, actually, it's pretty unique on its own, is that I was able to go back into something I watched years ago and implement that now. And so showing livestock teaches kids so many different things besides being responsible, caring for another thing, and just being constantly active. It helped me, be a competitive person, but also be a person that wants to do better and increase. And so I was also constantly working with my advisors, speaking to judges, and speaking to other peers. And this made me go out and seek information. So I would spend countless hours doing research on the internet, how to find the best way to show a certain animal, what's the best way to, feed an animal. And so this led me into actually the, technology section of my life. Although technology has always been pretty important to me, it's been around. I mean, I've had cell phones like many students before me, But this was the time that I actually was able to sell an animal. And with that money, I purchased my first computer, my first laptop. Um, and with that, that's what I started to really open up. And like the internet itself, it's a really broad world. And so that computer buying that opened that door for me. So this is my roads to literacy and my literacy autobiography. So I hope you enjoyed some of the stuff that I talked about, and I hope to hear any of your guys' literacy, and I hope to understand the different roads and how they lead to how we are now developed in terms of our literature.